crafty friends, it's Sharon Luska here from My Crafty Greetings, and we're going to be doing a Winter Flurries card kit, 10 card, 1 kit video. This is part 1, so the first 5 cards. And look at these awesome embellishments that you get with this kit. Get embellishments, a full 6x8 stamp set, a full die set, a stencil, and a pad of paper. And these stamps are gorgeous. I'm so excited about the horse and sled. It is amazing. And the dies are to die for. You get an awesome stencil as well and a pad of paper. This is just chock-a-block full of great things. I love this Christmas tree. And there's a little church here that you could very easily use for a wedding card, as well as this lantern and a wreath, which can be done any season. And I'm going to try my hand at using a stencil. So this paper pad, love the designs in it. It is 24 sheets, 12 designs, 4 of each design. It's two-sided. You do get a few scenes as well as some great background paper, just great designs that tie in together with everything. And it's just gorgeous. And I'm going to show you some really cool things, some great hacks, tips, and tricks when you're using paper pads. And I'm going to be doing all 5x7 cards. So, you know, don't feel that because it's a 6x6 paper pad that if you're a 5x7 card maker that you're going to be out in the cold. Ha ha ha, literally. So, we interrupt this for a news flash. Scrappy Tails Black Friday sale is now on. And the best deal obviously is if $150, you can get $25 off. This is good until Monday, November 28th. Oh my goodness, and this deal was just added. Buy 2 embellishment mixes, get 1 free. I'm getting myself some more of the snowflakes. Card number 1, we're going to be using the dark background snowflake paper, and you need 2 different sizes of punches or dies, circle dies. Use the smaller die or punch to punch out the snowflakes, and then the slightly larger die to do some metallic paper. I have silver and holograph here, and I'll be using the holograph to start off with. Now I have some of my paper strips here. We'll get into that later, but I'm putting them in an old package from Cutlery that we just got. It's a great way to store them. Now I'm going to be taking these strips, and once I peel the self-adhesive backing off, I'm going to be adhering it to a 5x7 sheet of Neenah Solar White. I'm using a little scrap of paper to help line these up so that they're evenly spaced and have enough room for all of the snowflakes. Once you get all the snowflakes glued together, go ahead and figure out what type of arrangement you'd like to do on your card front. Now, I decided that if I followed the exact arrangement as the paper front, that it was going to make it too tight and too many snowflakes. So I took some strips and cut them as guides so that I could see where I wanted to actually place my snowflakes. This makes it a lot easier to make sure that you have everything lined up and placed out perfectly. So I've taken some of my homemade foam tapes here. This is used packing foam and 2-sided sticker maker, Xyron sticker maker to be exact. And I'm lining up the snowflakes so that the linear part of it goes in line with the line of holographic detail that I have here. And I only have 1 snowflake hanging off, and I'm going to cut that right off the edge. And that's what our base is going to look like. Now I want to take a piece of paper and I want it to follow the angle of the snowflakes, and I'm going to show you a trick how to do that. Take the bottom of another 5x7 piece of cardstock and you're going to line it up with the angle that you want. Now you're going to use your base as the angle for which you're going to cut it out. So line that up with your guide, and as you slice off your extra piece of paper, you can pull this off and flip it over, and it will line up exactly with the angle that you need. I'm stamping Let It Snow, obvious, in flannel gray from Memento. I didn't want it to interfere with the design that we've made. And I wanted to add some holographic strips in a wider and thinner format than those we used supporting the snowflakes. I've added some foam tape in between to add this detail panel on. And as blingy and pretty as it looks, I decided it needed a little bit more. So I added in some of these beautiful rhinestones and snowflakes that came with the kit in a very generous amount. This is almost a palmful, and I have big palms. There's many, many sizes too of these faceted silver gems, and the snowflakes are easy to cut in half if you need to. Now this paper would allow you many designs of cards like this, but I thought if we wanted to use less of the snowflakes and make more cards, if you had some black and white paper in your stash and a nice color ribbon, maybe a baby blue or a pink, you could go ahead and make a band and a few layers here so that we could lay out the snowflakes on them. Now I like to add a heavyweight white paper behind my ribbon, and I also like to match it up so that it covers underneath the full lower panel and doesn't show through to the black. I had looked at putting on a straight silver strip and decided against that and thought maybe I should make some shiny black strips instead. So this is my Xyron sticker maker, and I do not have a machine because I hate wasting using the machine. It always uses up extra sticky that it doesn't need. And once I place my paper on here, I've left a little rim at the top where I've not stuck anything to it. I'm just going to tuck that back onto my roll, and where I left that extra rim open, I'm just going to take some paper towel and pull the sticky off. Throw that away so it doesn't end up stuck to your elbow, and then take this and square this up in your paper cutter. I've lined up the liner paper with the top edge, and I've cut a nice straight line down the side. I flipped it around and we're cutting the bottom and making sure it's very true and square. And then it's very important to make sure that the last piece that you cut off is right parallel to the first piece that you cut. So if this is nice and square, you should have no problem cutting great strips. I just slide it along the bottom guide a little bit each time and slice. The more you slide, the bigger the strip. The less you slide, the smaller the strip. I keep an eye on my guides as well and make sure that it's running parallel to get really great strip cuts. I've stopped being nervous with this. I think I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm picking out my thicker strip now. I think that's going to do the job. And I love pink and white and black. I think it's such a great combination. And with the sentiment that I'm choosing, I really think it's going to be a hit. These are the snowflakes that have the silver layers on them. And then I'm going to add Baby It's Cold Outside from our stamp set to this, but I'm going to heat emboss it. So that anti-stick powder, I have gotten rid of the extra. You don't want to contaminate your powder with this. I see people do that all the time, and it just leads to lumpy, bumpy powder. Now you can see I made a nice smudge on the edge of cold there. I'm going to go ahead and put my white embossing powder on there, and then I'm going to use a pokey tool and just give that a little scrape off, and then I'll dust it with a little tiny brush to get rid of the extra. I also double checked everything to make sure that I didn't have any strays, and I'm just going to heat set that with my tool here. And it's nicely crooked, but that's okay. We'll fix that too. I have this weird little curly stamp that I've had in my stash forever, and I decided that that would look great as kind of wind curls because we're going to put some of those snowflake embellishments on there, and snowflakes need to be swirling around if it's Baby It's Cold Outside. This is just clear embossing powder by Wow. I absolutely love it because it's never ever clumpy and it goes on so easily. I'm going to heat set it and make sure that it goes nice and clear. And once I've got that done, I'm going to wipe it off, but it's not going to get rid of all that dust. So I'm going to get out the Tim Holtz paper glaze. You can use this for any dark paper to get rid of the paper dust. Put on a thin layer, and then once you've got it all spread out, give it a little bit of burnishing off with some paper towel. See how nice and fresh that looks? Now I've got a little knife here. I'm just going to scrape off any extra little bits of embossing powder, and then I'm also going to start adding on my snowflakes. Now I tried to line them up neatly and straight, but I do have a little tool that I like to use that I got out of my sewing room. If you have one of these are great. I think they're hem gauges or something like that. This one's really old, but when you slide it up, you can check and make sure that things are evenly spaced. I'm adding snowflakes in the wind swirls, and I'm going to put them around Baby It's Cold Outside too to hide that angle. I wanted to put some gems in between my snowflakes, and yeah, apparently my fingers are foiling me. I just can't seem to do this. And you think I would get my little picker and use it. Absolutely not. The way things were going, luckily I didn't give this a wiggle before I got those all glued into place. Now that Baby It's Cold Outside is still bugging me, so I got my Zig pen here, and I'm just going to color over some of the white embossing powder and put some of the detail back in where it looks like I smeared it together. That's a great trick too for fixing some embossing mistakes. I think this turned out pretty good all in all, and you can do it any color you want with or without embellishments, but I will say word to the wise, do not leave it near your flicking if you're going to be flicking snow with another brush. That's why it's got all the little specks on it. So here's our next card. And I have these alphabet dies. They're an awesome set because they have upper and lowercase from Scrapbookcom. Loving them, and they're a good size too, so they can really take up some real estate on the front of a card. If you're doing the 5-inch wide way, or if you're going to do the 7-inch wide way, you can do some bigger words. This is my homemade sparkle, I don't know, Spectrum More glitter pen or shimmer pen, homemade shimmer. This is the one that I did with the oh, what do you call it? Hairspray. You can tell that I don't use hairspray unless it's in the craft room. I made it with hairspray and some great size mica, and I painted that on to give this some extra detail on the front. I also got myself some foam, white foam, and I cut some Noels out of that. Now I have these taped together exactly the way I want them to appear on the card, but I don't want this to rip off all of the work that I just did with the mica. So I'm going to trim down my panel so that it's 5 by 6 inches wide. I'm going to align my Noel, but how am I going to keep this from sliding around in the machine? And I decided that I would add some ATG to the front of the tape, get this in place for where I wanted it to be cut out, make sure it's aligned properly, and then I just take a piece of copier paper that's 5 by 6 inches, and I'm going to rock that over top of my dies. Now I can take some sticky product, whatever you want to use, this is paper tape, and wrap it around the ends so that it stays in exactly the place it needs to be. Isn't this brilliant if you don't want to wreck your paper? Put it through, popped out all of my letters, no problem. And once I peel off the paper tape and our front piece here, I will have 0 damage to all the work that I just finished doing on the front of my panel. Now to make this cover a full 5 by 7 card, I've taken that 1-inch piece that we cut off the bottom, I'm splitting that into 2 half-inch pieces, and I'm just going to set those aside. I'm gluing up a card base with ATG here, with lots extra going underneath where the letters are going to go, and I'm going to just double check these salvage pieces and see where they might line up best. They do not match the top here, but nobody's going to know the difference. So I'm going to add these little pieces to the left and right side of my card base, and then on my panel, I'm going to add a little ATG and a little thin piece of Nina Solar White 80-pound paper, just a little strip to hide where these 2 pieces are going to connect together. I'm popping in my white foam die cuts so that I can pop this up to make a cool eclipse card, and that's why I added all the extra tape. I'm popping in the O, the center for the O, and then I'm going to take my Tombow Mono Multi and I'm going to glue up the faces of the foam here, just with a few little dots and swirls, and then the same thing too for the backs of the die cut letters. So this particular layer of foam has no glue on it because the glue is attached to the paper letters into the foam underneath it, and that's going to hold it all together. So I'm just carefully aligning the second layer of foam and then the top layer of paper and getting this eclipse card put together. It's not too hard. N-O-E-L is pretty quick and easy. Luckily, I didn't misspell it by spelling N-E-O-L. I decided I wanted to put an extra strip of white paper on. I keep a little baggie of pre-glued white paper strips with all of my foiled ones just off to the side of my craft desk. So they're always available. I'm going to pull out another strip off the side here that's going to be the same as the first strip that I put on. And once I take the backing paper off of that, just like I did in the last card, I can glue it down. Now, when I noticed this design, these little bubbles that Sabrina had drawn on the strings surprisingly also took these metallic baubles perfectly. So I just went ahead and filled them in, and don't you think this has like a mercury glass kind of look to it? Okay, card number 4, pretty simple. We're going to take the bird panel and just cut it down into a 2-inch strip. and we're going to add some red paper layering around it. And I'm just going to cut off the extra. And then I also stamped Joy to the World from the stamp set that was included on a tiny strip of paper and did a thin strip of red paper. I'm adding some foam tape to the back, and I found these wire garland ties at the dollar store, Dollar Tree specifically. I trimmed off the one edge, and I'm going to stick these on with sook wing or extra sticky tape. I'm not sure exactly what this is called, but I peeled it off, and you can see I'm literally going to wrap it around. Now these are Tim Holtz scissors that I'm using to cut it. Don't use your good scissors, the wire will kill them. But once that extra sticky tape is wrapped front around to the back on these particular pieces, they stuck in extremely well. And the nice thing is the liner for the foam tape keeps it from sticking to your paper before you can wrap it around. Now, the one mistake that I made is I did not think about the angle that these needles would be sticking. I wish they were both sticking up, but alas, were not. I would change that. And then the other thing I did is I stuck this down before removing the liner paper for the foam tape. So luckily I could pull it back up and unstick the liner for the foam tape before I stick this whole concoction together. So I looked at it and decided that I would only put a tiny little bit of ATG right behind where I stamped and then add that to my thin strip of red paper because I wasn't exactly sure where I needed to cut this. So since it's not stuck together, I can easily lift up the white, cut it, and then lift up the red and cut it. Same thing on the opposite end. I'm just going to cut a little fishtail at the end here, and once I figure this out, I'm only going to put ATG on the part that's going to sit on the bird paper. So I got a little bit of foam tape and I added that back behind the fishtail. And once I stuck this down, I hated it. It maybe looks good, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I decided that it needed some balance with some extra red paper, I don't know, something. So I took a red strip the same length as the piece that I had behind the bird paper, which is just a little more than 6 inches, 6 and probably an 1/8 inch. And yeah, ran it down the side and put on a whole bunch of those beautiful baubles that Sabrina did. I also put glossy accents on the birds, and that's what I was using to glue down my baubles. Now, if my paintbrush was confusing you, I put a little tiny bit of Tombow Mono Multi on the tip of my brush, tiny bit, and let it dry, and that's how it's able to pick up my little embellishments. You can do that at home too and make yourself easy sticky tools. Now, I wanted to do something cool with these Christmas trees, and I've got my Jane Davenport Bright watercolors out here. I have some baby wipes, and I just cut them in half because we don't need a lot. And I'm just going to take out the little cubes and spray them with some water. This is a lid to a box of lettuce. Save those. They're good for keeping the top of your desk not a mess when you're doing messy things. And all I'm going to do is just dab on watercolor. Now I'll give these baby wipes a spin so that the dark color and the light color switch sides, and it gives it a really nice mottled effect. But this is so fast and easy. You could make so many cards quickly doing this particular card style or coloring style. So dab, 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 and that's all we need to do. And light green, dark green, this has all the colors that you need in it, and they're very, very cool colors that coordinate well and look excellent. Now there is not a second yellow, so what I wanted to do is get something a little bit orangey, and I just added a little touch of red and mixed it together with the yellow until it worked. So this is my moment where I make my appeal. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to me, I sure would love it if you would. What are you waiting for? Please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. That will help other people find my crafty craziness. And if you could leave me a comment, even if it's just an emoji, I would absolutely love it. It keeps a fire in my crafty derriere. Now, I'm just adding the 2 coordinating colors. So with the blue, it's going to be purple and green. With the green, it's going to be blue and yellow, just to blend the rainbow across all of these little trees here. So you notice that we're missing orange. So there's my trees all together as I'm going to lay them out. And I have this very cool paper that comes from Dollarama in Canada. It was $1.25 for a pack of 4. If you have haven't tried shopping with them yet, you should. And if you come here as a tourist, definitely take some time to go there and do some crafty shopping. There's my little strips. I'm going to add those onto my paper. I have Happy Christmas from the stamp set preloaded on my block here, and I'm using some VersaFine, I'm not sure. It's Versa ink in gray. I'm going to make a little concoction here. I'm putting some glossy accents and some super fine glitter in my little bowl here. There's also some of my hairspray slash mica in here, and it'll get hydrated by this little mixture. I'm going to add in a little bit more glitter. Thank God I didn't dump that. I have a bad habit of trying to pour a little bit and a lot comes out. So I have a very loaded brush here, which is going to flick on a lot of sparkle. And when I move on to the trees, I'm actually going to dab the brush off, and that is going to make sure that the glitter flicks are finer, because we don't want them as big on the trees. They'll just be overwhelming. We don't need trees drowning in glitter. Do we need trees drowning in glitter? Maybe. Well, here they are, Twinkle Twinkle. Now I have some stars here. Sabrina's got stars in her pre-packs of embellishments, and I have just twisted the 3D over the flat one. Somebody stole my working tongue tonight, and I've been left with this terrible thing. I have some homemade drops. I don't know what you want to call them, stickle drops, but they're shimmer ones, and I am squeezing them on where the holes are so that they squish through. It will also act as a glue, so this will hold on my trees in a nice 3D format. And you can see I didn't pop out all of the little bits. I thought that they looked very cool sticking on there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you are inspired. Possibly grab yourself that kit. It's an awesome deal, and have an awesome day. Get crafty. Thanks. Bye.